Briggs & Stratton employees, you should be proud of this engine. It's remarkable.
That work for Ferris. I think Ferris was purchased by Briggs & Stratton. Excellent job. You should be proud of yourself. And also the workers, I believe they're in Texas, who build a Briggs & Stratton engine. Awesome job. Hats off to both factories. It's an awesome mower. Marauders, welcome back to the channel. Time to do a review on the Ferris ISX 3300 zero-turn mower. She hasn't been babied. Let's see how she starts. So I'm going to give you a walk around of the machine, and this is an example of just how wet the property has been this year in the spring and July. The mud that accumulates on this machine, there's not leaves there, there's grass. Look at this. And this machine has, even though I don't do commercial mowing with this, it's not running for 8 hours a day, this machine has not been babied. Especially, I've used it as a brush hog, 91 hour, almost 92 hour review. The machine is a brush hog, lawnmower, everything in between. Let me clean it up. She'll present a little better. Let's talk first about the issue with it starting. See if she'll start now. So, before I wash it up, we'll talk about that. It has done that almost since the first time I've started this machine. Hasn't hesitated as much, but she's always had a hesitation where I've had to fiddle with the brake or emergency brake lever to make sure it's locked in. Lately, I'm tinkering with the PTO, I'm thinking tractor, the mower engagement button to get it started. And it has not been, it has gotten worse. Now some of you say, well, you gotta watch, you went U-boat with it in your creek, that accident. It was happening before that. And it's gotten progressively worse since I've owned it. And by the way, so that's a minor negative. I think it can be fixed, and I have to talk to my dealer about it. My second biggest complaint about it, and by the way, don't think I don't like the machine, because that's not true, but I'll start off with the negatives. That starting is an issue. I'm sure my dealer will take care of it. So I have to talk to him. I have yet to talk to my dealer about it. The paint on the machine. I love the black and red theme. It reminds me of Massey Ferguson back in the day. Black and red theme, nice theme for the machine. This red is nothing like John Deere paint or even Polaris or Can-Am paint. It is just not the easiest to clean. I don't know what's with it. Mud and dirt just stick to it. Even the plastics on the machine. This is all plastic. It has twin fuel tanks. The plastics, it's like dirt, mud just clings to this machine. John Deere is much easier. They're John Deere green. Someone told me they have a patent on it. That paint just does not fade, and it cleans up very easily. Third item on my negatives on the machine is the deck. Not that the deck does a bad job, because I think it does an amazing job. It's a great design, and I didn't understand it till I researched it before I bought it. Again, the deck in dirt, it's just, even I took the guards, the pulley, the belt guards and the pulleys off of it. It would get this congested with mulching and leaves and twigs and mud. Usually mud builds up right here with these tires. Prior to me pulling off the belt and pulley protector, the deck, again, like the rest of the machine, it's like grass and mud cling to it. While I'm focusing on the deck, probably my fourth issue with the machine is it has a scuff guard in the front, anti-scuff wheel in the front. It does not have one in the back, and it does tend to scalp. Even though that deck moves up and down with the suspension on the machine. I don't know if you can see it. Well, you can't see it. I'm not, can't believe it. I'm not heavy enough. Even though the deck will move up and down with the machine as the suspension moves, rear, and I can't give you a shot of it, the deck does not have a rear scuff wheel. And if you look way down there, it does not have one. I just got my sweatshirt all messy. It does not have one, and I wish it did. Next issue is weight, moving the seat forward. It's very heavy to push forward, and this toggle isn't the easiest to latch it. You can push it forward, but you need two hands, and you need some heft to move it. Probably my last issue with the machine, we'll start off with the negatives, get them out of the way, is the weight. I knew the weight of the machine. I think it's about 1,700 pounds. Other machines, especially John Deere that I looked at, were lighter than this machine. This machine does get stuck. I don't think I got it stuck this year, believe it or not, especially with the aggressive Carlisle Versaturf tires. I don't think the machine has gotten stuck this year. You get smarter as you own a zero turn and know how to maneuver it without getting stuck. The weight is probably a negative. I wish it was lighter. It wouldn't rut up the lawn so much. Especially my lawn this year is very wet. 3 wet years in a row. That's why I retired the tractor from mowing my grass, popular video on my channel, John Deere 3046R, and I went to a zero-turn mower. This goes places the tractor cannot, but it's still a heavy machine, and I usually use the Defender to pull it when I get stuck. Either I winch it or I pull it out. Okay, let's get it cleaned up and we'll go through the positives about the machine, which there's not a lot, but they're huge in my mind. So that's what I picked off the machine just with my hands. Picked off the top of the machine, not underneath the deck. A lot of material. A lot of questions about my Milwaukee tools. And About 4 years ago, I made a decision to switch over from Delta to Milwaukee, and I've never looked back. This is a purchase. It's a Milwaukee M18 blower. Just was an outstanding purchase. This is an M18 Milwaukee blower, which was an outstanding purchase. Not only do I use it to blow off the zero-turn mower, but I also use it to dry my off-road equipment after I wash it. So let's give this thing a buzz. This bracket comes off to expose the deck. Let's see how that blows off. Okay. Probably the number one reason why people buy a Ferris mower is because of the suspension, and that the suspension moves the deck up and down as the suspension moves up and down. And the rear end is on a suspension, solid rear axle or combined rear axle, let's say. They moves, both tires move in unison. The front is an independent suspension, and it does a remarkable job. The ride is phenomenal. Combined with the VersaTurf tires, Carlisle VersaTurf tires I put on the tractor, radial tire, again, part ag, part turf, maybe even part R4 tire, and the suspension seat, the ride is phenomenal. But I have the machine outside, and I'm going to tell you what I think is a strong reason to buy this mower. So, when I was looking at mowers, I turned away from John Deere, and by the way, that's low idle. I turned away from John Deere because they had a Kohler engine. Just when I was younger, when I was a kid, I had to work on Kohler engines, and I wasn't a real fan. Again, you know, Kawasaki is strong. You know, Kohler, Kawasaki, Honda. Honda one's very smooth. When I was a kid, Briggs and Stratton engines were brutes of engines, but Honda came about and Hondas were really smooth engines, right? You remember that if you're from my generation, an old man. I say that positively, as a positive, not a negative. So, I stumbled across Ferris and a little bit of frustration looking at another name brand, and I researched the engine. I think they're made in Texas. They're made in the United States. Another positive, not to put down any other country, but to me that's a positive. And when I went to the dealer and started the engine, the V-twin 37 horsepower engine, and I started it up, holy mackerel was I impressed. Look at how that engine has smoothed out.
and Stratton employees in Texas, I believe is where your plant is. Briggs and Stratton employees, you should be proud of this engine. It's remarkable. Tell me that's not a smooth engine. I dare you. Pretty impressive, isn't she? She's fuel injected, 37 horsepower, V-twin. Some jerk U-boated her accidentally along the creek, and I'm not certified to run a Ferris mower. I don't think there's any such certification for any zero-turn mower. I'm sure someone will comment there is. I really don't care. Phenomenal engine. 37 horsepower, fuel injected, V-twin, made in America. Can take a creek ride, and come out swinging, and she did. Briggs and Stratton people, your Vanguard system. Great idea. Not only it's, so you don't know, I believe it's 6 quarts of oil. This reservoir is filled with 6 quarts of oil. It keeps the engine cool by cooling the oil, and it also keeps the oil life is, I think, 500 hours for oil change. Phenomenal system. Has a cartridge filter in here, and this system works well. I can do a better job cleaning the engine. Let's run her up one more time. Pull her inside. I lost weight and I stiffened the suspension before I lost weight. I can't get it to move. Okay, let's go through this. As you can see, you have an independent front suspension, which is phenomenal. It's adjustable. I have mine in the center. Click on the suspension to firm it up. The nose was diving a little bit when I was stopped moving forward. Suspension works great. Can't say enough about it. As a suspension takes on load and the A-arms move the front, or arms, maybe they're V-arms or triangular arms, move the front suspension up, the deck will travel with the suspension. That's what all this linkage is for. It works amazingly well, even with my body on it. Same thing happens with the rear suspension. It travels in unison, I believe, as the rear suspension comes up. Again, there's an arm, a rod, that again pivots this whole mower deck up and down, and it works phenomenally well. Let's go around and do the technical features. Love the wide mouth filler caps. Easy to pour fuel in it. I believe it's 5.5 gallons on a side. There's twin tanks. Awesome feature. The fuel gauge is easy to read from the driver's position. Love that you can switch between fuel tanks. I do it all the time. I really like that feature. Here's the other fuel fill on the other side. Again, easy to read fuel gauge. Cup holder handles anything I put in it. Little cubby hole. I always travel with, even around my yard. This is probably the #1 tool, in my opinion, when you ride the trail, other than a first aid kit, is a razor saw. Even around my yard to cut branches. Typically I have that in there when I'm mowing.
travel around the mower deck. This is a 61-inch mower deck. I wanted it to get between trees. It works. It is a right for my property. It's a right width deck. Lighter gauge deck than maybe John Deere, strong. Regardless, look at the bar of steel. I think that's a 1/2-inch bar of steel around the perimeter of the deck. The deck comes out, the cutting blades are about here. The deck comes out in the front further, and it does that to bend the grass back. As your deck moves forward, it bends the grass down, and then it allows the time to flick up for the blades to cut it. Seems to work. Some professionals don't like this mower. They don't think it stripes as well as maybe a Skag. They might be right. It does stripe a lawn. I look at it every morning during the summer out my bedroom window, and it's striped and it looks beautiful. Front tires are part of that suspension. Great tires. The seat is extremely comfortable. There's a dial located between your legs to adjust the seat for your weight. Armrests are adjustable on the bottom. Give you a close-up of that. Seating position, tilt forward and back. I have it all the way forward. I like to sit upright. Very easy to steer this mower with one hand. Very easy, comfortable arrangement. Water bottle here, storage here, throttle. I say PTO, but to engage the deck is over here and the key. Everything is in very convenient to get to, and it works well. I showed you how to get at the mower deck for cleaning. These are the pegs to adjust the mower height. Let's see if I can show you that briefly. To let the mower down, you push on the foot pedal, let it back, and it stops at this peg, whatever height adjustment you want. Simple system, automatically locks when you push it up, and then you can adjust this peg for various deck heights. But mine's clogged with grass. Not surprising. Okay? There you go. Very easy to use. Parking brake is here. The parking brake has to be on to let it idle. When you get off the machine, the parking brake has to be on for it to run. Has to be on for it to start. And you have to be in this, well, you know what? You don't have to be in the seat if the parking brake's on. Mower engagement, throttle, key. That's a little display in case there's a problem. See how she hesitates a little bit? They want you to start it mid-throttle. Here's a lever to move the seat forward and back. It's here. I rarely move it, leave it locked in. This is a must. Ferris makes a very good rubber deflector that comes out from the deck. Maybe, oh God, 16 inches to a foot. Big rubber thing made out of truck flat, mud flat rubber. Very durable. I really need this deflector when I'm mowing. You have to install this. It's from Advanced Chute Systems. It works very well. So when I'm mowing, I have to transition to one hand, reach over, open the deflector, close the deflector. I'm used to it. I like the way it works. I had to install that myself. I would say that's one thing they should offer from the factory. Deflector, chute deflector installation. Belts, some people, there's one big drive belt that goes from the back of the engine to the deck. Some people say that twigs get in it and rip it up. Those are probably commercial people who are using the mower for 8+ hours a day. You've seen how I've used this. I use it as a brush hog in the spring. I never had any issues with it, but I believe people could be susceptible. Talked about the engine and oil. The fuel capacity is about 11 gallons, 5.5 gallons per side, roughly. I'd say it's pretty accurate.
When you fill it up, it will last, I bet you 8 hours for someone running it commercially. Does use a lot of fuel, it's a lot of horsepower. Engine never lacks power. Never stalled this mower out. You've seen me cutting, well, you haven't seen the video of the island where I'm cutting grass 4 or 5 feet tall. Weeds. Never have stalled that engine out. It's a monster. And it adjusts, I believe, because it's an EFI, it will adjust, lower the fuel into the engine when it's not under load, then it detects the load and it increases the fuel. Works very well. And run this thing on 90 plus days, air cooled. It does stay cool. I will check this when I'm mowing. This will, the fan will get grass sucked on it. I will get that off. This does have commercial grade hydraulic drives on the tires. That's how this turns. 0 turn. The drives have been excellent. I did have to add some hydraulic fluid when I first got the mower. I don't know what else there is to talk about. So let's give you a view underneath the seat. There's the reservoirs for the hydraulic drives. There's one on each axle. Those are the fans for cooling it. You can see the pulleys, not only for the drives for those hydraulic units, but also down below to drive the deck. The steering linkage is here, this contraption. This is the brake lever contraption, oil. Again, our 5 quarts of oil, reservoir and reserve, which is a lot for an engine like that. Fuel valve, nice sized battery. I did have an issue with the cables coming loose on the batteries last fall. Left me a little stranded in the woods, but I hand tightened them and got the mower started. This is the contact for the parking brake is there. That's the cable that runs back to the brake system. That's what it looks like under the hood or under the seat. Ferris, this was a new design. I bought this last spring, and this was a new design for Ferris. And one of the things they did was they beefed up this rear guard on the mower, and I actually have a bracket that mounts on here so I can tow a trailer around with it. Man, this thing should have been a World War II tank. This bracket is so heavy duty. And you think about it, you really, when you're backing in, you're moving so fast. With 0-turn mowers, you could back into something. I think you could back into a building and knock it down with this on it. Very heavy gauge steel on the back. The mower has a nice wide stance. I've never, except for going into a creek, I've never been worried about it flipping over. And by the way, this was bearing the weight, the 1,700 pounds of this machine when it was in the creek, it was bearing on that. So again, I can't say enough about it. Some of you have purchased these tires, and I hope you're having good success with them. Again, that's a tractor tire I put on this mower. That was a must for me. I highly recommend that. All around, it's been a very good machine. Marauders, I hope you enjoyed the review. The men and women in New York State that build this mower, that work for Ferris. I think Ferris was purchased by Briggs and Stratton. Excellent job. You should be proud of yourselves. And also the workers, I believe they're in Texas, who build a Briggs and Stratton engine. Awesome job. Hats off to both factories. It's an awesome mower. Highly recommend it. Probably in the future I'm going to be adding lights to it. Thank you for tuning into the channel. Please consider subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with a friend. And I'll give you a walk around on the mower.